All right, we're back. Aftershocks Tremors. Matt and Chris here with you, and we're here for another discussion episode this time around. Chris, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I am peachy, man. How about you?
Yeah, I guess you can say I'm a little peachy. Still shaking off the cobwebs from last night, but I'm feeling peachy too on this glorious Saturday afternoon, man. So it's interesting this week. I was just over the last couple of weeks, I should say. I've been seeing a lot of these, controversial things
Mm-hmm.
in metal. And we're not talking about just little made up sensationalized headlines. These are like real kind of controversial stories going on in rock and metal recently. I mean, just that comes off the top of my head the last, couple of weeks. The Danko Jones versus Monster Truck thing going on with the Kid Rock cover song. Puddle of Mud's Wes Scantlin, another meltdown on stage. That's kind of quite the common theme for him. And even that other story with that cover band, that Brass Against. I know you guys covered that a little bit on the CMS,
Mm-hmm.
where the singer peed on the fan's face on stage. And, reading these stories, seeing all this shit in the news, it just got me thinking, about controversy.
Sure.
And does it, a lot of times we see sure, a lot of times it can hurt, obviously individuals, like, obviously someone like, for instance, you know, um, a friend of ours, yours, and a guy that we all respect and like, David Ellison, had some controversy that, unfortunately didn't affect him well. But a lot of times you had controversy where something comes up and it actually gives these bands and artists more of a boost, and it kind of gets them into the mainstream, or, it gets them more notoriety. And then all of a sudden bands start giving a chance and they become a little bit bigger. So I just thought it'd be kind of good. Like, we'll talk a little bit about, some of the historic controversies over the years that have either hurt or helped a lot of these artists. And, a lot of those times these controversies are kind of created too, to sort of help, you know what I mean? So I thought that would be kind of something good we could chat about today.
Absolutely, man. And certainly it's one of those practices, and I will call it a practice because it's done a lot intentionally, but it's definitely one of these things that has been going on since the Beatles or Elvis, or, Elvis
Sure.
back in 50 whatever with the military, going into the military was a controversy. And then when he was banging Priscilla when she was 13 or whatever, that was a controversy.
Yep.
And, obviously seems like the underage thing was like a 50s, 60s, 70s controversy, because there were a bunch of those guys,
Ted Nugent,
Jimmy Page.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Obviously Elvis. There was quite a few of those going around. And
if I want to go back further, you even have Jerry Lee Lewis with his cousin, right? 13-year-old cousin. Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's when you look at it, I think being a rock star, quote unquote, especially before there was a pattern to being a rock star, was, let's see how shocking we could be. It was like the original shock jocks. Before there were shock jocks, there were shock musicians. It's a practice that helped a lot of these guys. I mean, really, Elvis, certainly it helped.
Sure.
I think especially the military thing really helped Elvis, because damn well he could have got out of going to the military.
Absolutely. Okay, of course.
But sitting in some barracks in Germany somewhere, never getting any close to anything, he all of a sudden became All-American Elvis, which he wore basically for the end of his career. I mean, the end of his career, he was still wearing, some semblance of the flag built into the Elvis jumpsuit.
True. Yeah.
So, he became All-American Elvis. And at that point, when you were allowed to love the country, that was a big deal. It helped him go from being the evil Elvis. I've talked about this with my mom. And Elvis at the beginning was the evil Elvis, the pelvis Elvis. And he's the sex guy. He was that guy. And all the parents and everybody hated Elvis because he shook his hips on TV, and you're not supposed to do that. And
not in those days.
What messages he's sending to the girls, and all that stuff. But then he went to the military and became All-American Elvis. And if you remember, he's doing all those movies, the GI Blues, is accentuating his military time, accentuating what a patriot he was. He might be the original guy that used controversy.
That's a good point.
raise his career.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And of course later on he became drunk and fat Elvis, when he ended everything. But yeah, no, that's a good point. That's the thing too. And with the controversies too, there's different types, right? You've got ones where obviously it could be deliberate. It's like, okay, let's foment something here. Let's create something, get it into the news, get people talking about, the artist or the band. Just so they go, who is this? And they go check out, their music. And I think one of those, like I was just talking about, would be someone like we saw with this Brass Against cover band where the singer peed on a fan on stage. Now, I personally believe that one was completely staged. Now, I mean, give me a break. I mean, are you really is a fan just gonna go up there, get peed on, and then say nothing and not and just sit there and take it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, if it's unless it's someone that likes that. But this is just a random fan that came up, and you could see even too when this, I forget her name, but when she was peeing, it didn't look like a little like what pee usually looks like. Not that I know what pee looks like coming out of a vagina, but I do, and I know it doesn't look like it did on there, where it's just this big spraying, like a big faucet coming down. So I think obviously that was definitely created, because soon enough, all of a sudden, now I see the singer, I forget her name, is going on tour, and now she's, I mean, listen, they did what they wanted to do, and I think it did succeed for what they wanted to get out there. You've got the controversy too with the beefs, right? In the press with other artists, like we saw back in the 90s with the Rat, with Death Row versus, Big Bad Boy Entertainment, right? You had the, LA versus New York with the whole BET award show thing with Snoop Dogg in New York going off on, the East Coast doesn't love the West Coast, yada, 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 that stuff. You have, like I said, you have, for instance, ones that are just sort of like, for instance, Wes Scantlin, like I brought up with Puddle of Mud. I mean, this guy now has walked out on shows countless times.
Yeah.
Yet, being drunk, being all fucked up. Yet people still go and see this band. I'm not saying, there's
the real question is why. I mean, I'll be the first one to say I like Blurry. I think that's a cool song.
It's a good first album, I thought.
I like She Fucking Hates Me. I think that's a cool song.
Yeah.
All that said, if I would never go see a band that is known for walking off the fucking stage. Why would you do that?
Why'd you pay your money? I know.
That makes no sense to me. And it's one thing. Now here's the caveat, and we'll use the controversy. It's one thing if it's Guns N' Roses and Axl Rose, who has always been temperamental and has also been known to walk off a show here and there.
Or show up 4 hours late for a show. Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, he's done both. And most fans of Guns N' Roses will go and tolerate it if it happens to them. Why would you tolerate it if it's happening at a 300-seat venue or standing venue for Wes Scantlin that has 2 marginal hits? I do not understand that at all. I don't understand. I don't think in Scanlin's case, I don't think that it's trying to create controversy at all. I think he's just a dick and a drug addict, and he struggles with his addictions, and you add in being a dick, and he just says, fuck it, I'm not doing this tonight. It's not that important to me. I don't think with him, I don't think it's a purposeful controversy at all.
No, but it could be a helpful controversy, meaning that almost is the draw to it, why I think people go see. It's one of those, am I going to be able to get the video footage now that I can put up on YouTube showing Wes that he walked out, that I want it to happen to me? I'll use another guy who's been doing this for decades. And if you saw the documentary on him and his band, you would know it, is Bobby Liebling in the band Pentagram.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that guy, I don't know how many times that guy has either just no-showed for a show where the band had to sit there and play and, just have one of the other band members sing. That guy's done it countless times. If you ever seen that documentary, I mean, I don't want to get too personal and stuff, but that guy's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? There's nothing. I mean, this guy recently, I think he got arrested too for punching his 80-something-year-old mom. And if you see that, and if you see that documentary, you'll see, the parents are partially to blame for the way he is, to be honest with you. But I mean, the guy's pathetic, dude. And like I said, and I like Pentagram's music. I'm a big fan of the music, big fan. But that documentary just showed me really just not what a good person he is. Yet people still, because he still tours, and people still. I mean, he's walked out. I think a handful of years ago he did it. He I guess relapsed and stuff, and he didn't. He no showed, or he walked out on a show. Where he got all. I forget all the details. But it still go on to this day. Yet that guy still sells out every time these guys play. Because for one, he doesn't play that often. He'll play select cities, and he knows those cities people will come to see him regardless. It's almost one of those things. It's like, am I gonna be the one that gets to actually see a full Bobby Liebling Pentagram show? Or if I don't, I get to at least say, hey, I watched him walk off stage. So a lot of people actually are drawn to go and see if they can, see that. You know what I mean? It's just the way I guess human nature is. But no, and I agree with you. I don't think Wes, Scantlin, I don't think it wasn't obviously purposeful. He just does have an issue. He's got a problem. He's probably got some mental health stuff too. And but what's happening is it's keeping his band in a way relevant. It's keeping Puddle of Mud alive because, like I said, they haven't had a hit in years. No one really listens to them that I know of anymore, except for the old records, which I guess, obviously some people want to still go and hear those hits. But why would you spend that money knowing there's a good chance this guy is either going to cancel the show, he's going to show up late, or he's just going to walk off because he's too high or drunk?
And the interesting thing is, if you look at the other bands that were all his contemporaries that came up at the exact same time that are still in business, that actually show up and play their gigs, none of them are doing it. None of them are constantly out there. Soil, Drowning Pool, Edema, these are all bands that were their contemporaries at the time. None of them draw dick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is something to it. I don't know. I think maybe I'm spoiled to actually wanting to pay my money and see the show.
Yeah, true.
But there are some people that and honestly, I know this isn't the direction we're supposed to veer to, but I'm going to veer to it. This is an absolute statement of awfulness against fans today, because fans are way more interested in their YouTube clip than seeing the show.
Exactly.
People would rather go. If people are going to spend $200 to go see Genesis with Phil Collins sitting in a chair, they're hoping he falls out of the chair so that they can get that video and they can be the one that gets the TMZ clip of Phil Collins falling down. They're not there because they're thinking this is going to be a killer show.
Exactly.
They're not.
No. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. And that's the thing. So it's one of those. I think, let's just talk about, for instance, I mean, certain artists and bands got to keep their name somehow in the news, right? And we see just two artists that come to my mind who always just got to, I mean, they'll comment on anything political or anything that's in pop culture just to get on, the big sites, that we all, always talk about. I mean, guys like Sebastian Bach, Michael Sweet, we've talked about those guys that haven't been that relevant in terms of musically, they haven't had a hit in a long time. Sure. But in a way you wonder, I'm not saying like a guy like Michael Sweet. I mean, he does truly believe in what he believes in, and he's always done this. So he's been consistent. It's not like he just started doing this to keep his name in the news. But there's no doubt, I think this part of him knows that it's a good thing to do because it does keep people talking about him and his band. It keeps the name Stryper out there, even though people haven't heard them for years. Sebastian Bach's another one, right? He hasn't really been relevant. I mean, I know he's got his. I know you're a fan of his solo stuff, and a lot of people are, but in terms of obviously having any really, I mean, just tell me the last time he had a song. What's the last song he put out that really has resonated with a majority of rock and metal fans? It's been a long time. Yeah, exactly. 30-something years ago. So, and listen, I mean, it's a strategy. It's obviously a business strategy. It's a management thing. It's definitely something that they need to kind of do in order just for people to keep talking about it and let them know, hey, we're still here. And we're still, I guess, relevant. And obviously, and like you said, people are sometimes now are just tuning in, whether it's to news or whether they're going on looking for, clips of stuff, not to see, I want to see that song they played at that show last night. No, it's just, I want to see if somebody, messed up. And how were they? Were they drunk? Were they high? Everyone just wants to see that train wreck happen. They're just attracted to it. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, how many times have we seen a Vince Neil, David Lee Roth, or Dokken video where they're performing like shit, but if you look at the bigger picture, when they pan back, you see a full room.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if there's anybody that goes to see any of those three that I just named, thinking they're going to get 1987 version, they're just stupid. They're just stupid. Yet each one of those bands sells out whatever room they're playing, whether it's a casino or it's Vince Neil plays, I think, larger venues than that. But then like Vince Neil, they're getting ready to do the stadium fucking tour. He's terrible. He's been terrible for 30 years, and people can't wait to shovel their money into his pocket to see a bad version of Motley Crue perform those songs poorly.
Absolutely. Well, let's piggyback off of Vince Neil. Let's talk about Motley Crue. I mean, here's a great example. Controversy, obviously, back in the 80s when he got in a car accident that killed Razzle.
Yeah.
Now, that really, something like that if that happened to me or you, we'd be pieces of shit. We'd be locked up forever.
Of course.
But the fact that he didn't get locked up, I mean, he's mentioned that he knows, he should have been, and if he wasn't a Motley Crue, he would have been. But think about what that did for for Motley Crue and their brand. It gave them this invincibility, sort of like they were this untouchable, invincible band, like a guy like Vince Neil, who he did that, created this controversy. Like I said, it wasn't purposeful, obviously. It's just, from being fucked up. But it almost made the band stronger in the eyes of the public because this guy got right back out there and started playing again and started making records. And it was almost like it didn't happen. It was like sweep it right under the rug. So it gave them sort of this, a larger than life sort of thing that Motley Crue was always sort of known for, right? They were known for a band that did all this excess in terms of drugs and partying. Nothing ever happened. They never OD'd. Vince Neil, gets in this accident, someone dies, doesn't go to jail. And like I said, it strengthened their brand to this point where everyone just thought they were sort of like this, invincible sort of mob sort of band where you couldn't touch them.
Yeah. Dude. And it's funny you bring this one up because I think, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will email, but I think the first show back from him, he did like 15 days in jail or some nothing thing for the Razzle thing. And I'm pretty sure that the first gig back was here in Cleveland, and I was at it. It was Theater of Pain tour, and it was them and Y&T. Y&T was the opening band, and it didn't affect anything. It was packed. I mean, packed to the gills, and people didn't give a shit. No one cared. Nobody. I think it would have been different if Razzle was more known.
True, you're right.
I think
that's a good point. Yeah.
But the unfortunate truth is people are like, some fucking drummer died. Whatever, dude. Home sweet home.
Exactly. True.
That was what it was. It was people were celebrating fucking Too Young to Fall in Love and Home Sweet Home and those tunes. They wanted to hear those tunes. They didn't give a shit that this guy was a killer. They just cared that, in a way, it's kind of like football. I mean, do you really give a shit if the defensive end killed somebody? Not if he's on your team and he's good.
Good point. Yeah.
That's really what it is. If he's on your team and he's good, you don't give a shit. With Motley Crue, I think that's been the same. That's been the story of all of their controversies. No one has ever given a shit. They didn't care when Tommy beat up Pam and went to jail for it. They didn't care when Vince killed Razzle. They didn't care about Nicky and all his ODs. They didn't care about any, and they don't care that Mick is near death.
Yeah.
All they care about is show up, give me Wild Side and Girls, 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 and give me the same old situation, and I'm good. They don't care. That's just the saddest part of it is people are willing to just accept it if they've been entertained by it.
There you go.
Which is pretty sad, really.
It really is, man. No, and that's a good point. I mean, like I said, with Motley Crue, I mean, it's sort of like, like I said, when John Gotti was on trial, everyone knew he did what he did, yet they couldn't convict him. And it just gave, and to a point now where he became this celebrity where everyone just wanted to tune in to see what he can get away with. And he had this huge following where people loved him. And that's almost sort of thing with Motley Crue. It didn't matter, like you said, it didn't matter what they did, all of them. You know, like you said, Nikki 6OD or Tommy beating up Pam. It's just, here they go. They got busted. Maybe did a little time in jail and they're out and they're back. And it's like nothing ever happened. And almost gave this, it is sad because people embrace it and almost celebrate it. And that's the sad part about it. You know, now on the flip side, let's go to a different one here. For someone who I think it didn't really turn out well for, and quite, I would say appropriately that it didn't, you know, and I'm happy it didn't, was a guy like Tim Lambesis from, you know, After Dying. Right. Here's a guy who tried to have his wife killed, got caught doing it, went to jail for a little while, came back out, goes back out with As I Lay Dying, and since the, you know, Woven War, that other band didn't do nothing. I guess they felt desperate. Well, let's give it a shot. And, you know, that hasn't worked out very well. I don't really hear anybody talking about it. I'm glad because, you know, I mean, that is such a piece of shit maneuver. I don't know how you could, I don't care how big or how much you love music from an artist. It could be, you know, I don't care what band it is. Someone does something like that. I couldn't listen to them anymore. I wouldn't go see them. There's no way. So I'm glad that didn't work out. But here's this other guy that kind of came out at the same time, though. No one's saying nothing. You don't hear anybody, you know, talking bad about him. Like, I'm not going to play with this guy. You know, people are still playing with them. You know,
but dude, let's play it out. Let's say that it wasn't Tim Lambesis from As I Lay Dying, a lower tier band anyway. What if it was James Hetfield? And I'm not saying that James Hetfield has done anything wrong.
Sure.
I'm just saying, what if it was James Hetfield from Metallica? I don't think he does 60 days and he's right back on tour.
And that's it. We don't talk about it anymore. Exactly. I agree. Well, that's what I mean. And I guess in a situation like that, when there is something that severe, yeah, it does depend how big you are. I mean, let's even go to like, I mean, it's not metal or hard rock related, but when we go, you know, the Snoop Dogg, you know, the whole Death Row stuff, you know, the Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg and the mystique that whole thing created. And that label just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger the more shit they stepped into. Because once again, it created this sort of invincibility and people somehow were just attracted to that and then almost celebrated it. Like I said, it's just such an interesting, you know, phenomenon within, I guess, the human psyche where people actually become attracted to it and don't really care. They can look the other way.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I do think that their level of celebrity when they fuck up is a huge part of it because, you know, I mean, we can name horrible people. What's his name? Ian Watkins from Lost Prophets.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's like the all-time vilest of anybody. And I truthfully believe that if he was Phil Anselmo from Pantera, he would have gotten a pass.
Yeah.
He would have gotten a pass. I mean, there would always be people that be like, I'm not going to support that pedophile, blah, blah, blah. But there'd be people that would be like, you know, vulgar display of power, Cowboys from Hell.
Sure. Woo! It's true. Well, great example. Let's talk about Phil Anselmo, right? With the whole controversy with him at that Dimebag bash, where, you know, he was drunk and he did the whole See Kyle thing and as a joke. And then that's interesting too, because that blew up, you know, kind of, you know, in his face almost. I mean, you had the two, it's sort of divided. You had the people like ourselves, like, look, the guy was just clowning around. It's no big deal. But you had, of course, because of the I guess the content of what he did is such a sensitive topic with so many, you know, in the music press, in the metal press, that they decided, well, no, let's hammer this guy and let's take him out. Now that almost made him stronger in certain ways, I think, too, with the people who were already on his side, who didn't think it was a big deal, you know. But then you had, like I said, Rob Flynn coming out and doing his whole 5-10 minute video on it. Trying to inject himself into the controversy. I don't think that made him look very good. I don't think he did himself any favors by doing that. You know, I don't think he won any more fans. In fact, I think he lost fans by doing that.
Sure.
By trying to be that. And once we always say, you know, once you start digging it and you get political and you really go that hardcore into it, you're going to divide yourself anyway. I think it's, you know, we see it all the time now. But there's a guy who everyone, you know, I mean, it's post obviously Dimebag being gone and people still kind of blamed him for what happened and so forth. But, you know, there's a controversy that maybe didn't work out for a guy who you probably would have thought, well, it would have maybe boiled over, but it didn't, because I've obviously, like I said, the press we have now and the kind of content that he used within that controversy with the whole white power thing or whatever. But yeah, but like I said, it's a very interesting concept of what does work for you. Sometimes, like I said, it's accidental. Some accident happens. It can totally raise your status.
Yeah.
And
Well, you know what the thing is too, dude, and you're almost playing to my point. And I'll use Anselmo as a great example.
Mm-hmm.
Anselmo was doing that kind of stuff, white power and stuff like that, when Pantera was on top.
Was big.
I mean, I saw them every tour they ever played. And I can remember Phil being on stage saying, there's nothing wrong with saying white power. There's nothing wrong with being proud of being white. There's nothing wrong with, I remember him hammering on that point, and no one gave a fuck when Pantera was, on Far Beyond Driven or Great Southern Trendkill. When they were selling 18,000 tickets a night, nobody was staying home because Phil was saying crazy things. But when Dimebag died and when the popularity went down and he started being way more Super Joint Ritual guy instead of Pantera guy, his popularity waned, and all of a sudden he was weakened enough to where people, the same stuff that he was, impervious to previously took him out, at least for a while. I mean, he was out of the limelight for about 2 years?
It was a couple years. Yeah, I'd say a good 2 years.
Yeah. But again, it goes to my point. When you're a big star, untouchable. When you're not a big star, you're fallible.
Well, we have to also put into effect that those things happen to pre-internet, pre-social media, I should say, and pre-phones, because they wouldn't have been able back then if he did that at a dime, little concert in in some club in LA. There was going to be no phone to pick up that video. It's just people talking about it. It would just be a hearsay. But yeah, because you've got the proof now with the phones, and because you've got social media and you've got all these metal sites that are all sort of agenda and narrative driven. That's obviously going to help drive, the negativity or it's going to help squash something that someone did, but these people want to protect them because they're on their quote unquote side.
Right.
But you're right. And that's just the point though, obviously. And we see that, I mean, like I said, it's that power thing. When you have that status and that, that power in a way, you're going to get away with so much shit. You know what I mean? It's going to be, it's interesting to see if that would happen today with some of these big artists, but you see a lot of artists, I think, that are, I mean, let's talk about one of the most controversial artists in the last 20, 30 years would be Marilyn Manson.
Sure.
Another guy who obviously with the whole Columbine thing, right? Here's a guy, because they were wearing his shirt and listening to his lyrics, they press attributed a lot of that to Marilyn Manson. Now, in a situation like that, that's such an interesting thing, because I remember reading, I think it was the guitarist from the first record, Daisy Berkowitz, I believe his name was. Yeah. And he came out and he said, basically, because let's be honest. I mean, Marilyn Manson ran away from that right away. Now, here's a guy preaching on the Antichrist.
Yeah.
I'm all this, whatever. Well, here's someone who goes out, does something like that. Listens to your music as a fan. The press brings you into it. You whittle away like a little, like in a way, like this Daisy Berkowitz basically said, was like, well, what happened? You're supposed to be the Antichrist. You're supposed to say, well, hey, that's not my, just come out and not be pro it, but just to stick up for yourself and just say, yeah, this is who I am. And I think if he would have done that, it wouldn't have affected him as much. If he would have not owned what happened in Columbine, because it's not his fault. I'm just saying, if he would have been like, well, look, this is where I'm coming from lyrically, and I'm not going to apologize. I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't encourage my people, my fans to go out into a school and to shoot up a school, and they tried to use, I think, the song Lunchbox is it's like,
and there's several. Get your gun, obviously.
Get your gun.
I mean, in Marilyn Manson's case, and I agree with you. He had nothing to do with it. Period.
Yeah. No.
Those kids were nuts. They went nuts. They shot up their school. Doesn't matter what they listened to. Would we be damning Mozart if that's all they listened to was classical music? No, we wouldn't.
Exactly.
They listened to what teenagers were listening to at the time. So just stop with that. I'm sure, and in that case, I always found the blame on Manson to be a very convenience of what the actual truth might have been, because
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that if you went through Klebold and Harris's room, they had more than Marilyn Manson albums.
Absolutely.
But we didn't go after Nine Inch Nails. We didn't go after Metallica. We didn't go after Pearl Jam, whatever they had in their, in their musical arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
We only went after the one that was convenient to go after.
Well, he was the biggest one at that point too.
Maybe, we don't know.
Possibly. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You don't know that, but Metallica was they weren't going to be able to get a Metallica. They weren't gonna be able to narrow into a Metallica like they were on Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson's image and presentation and everything fit the box for the narrative that they wanted, just like they do now in the media, where they pick the convenient, the convenient truths versus the real truths. Marilyn Manson was such an easy target for Columbine because he had songs like Get Your Gun and Lunchbox and, and Don't Take Shit at School was basically some of his message. But that wasn't the only things that these kids were listening to. They were listening to other shit, and, none of that was ever exposed. That was quietly dismissed as, well, we don't know, and that's, that in Manson's case, that was interesting. What's interesting is Manson now that he's not a star, and they're raiding his house and they're taking, he's been arrested a couple of times and he's feigning that he's now found the Lord and all this other stuff. It's like he's scrambling because he knows his celebrity won't cover him anymore.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. It is weird, and I think another situation, another controversy that's similar to that is the Judas Priest one in the 80s, right? With the suicide and, claiming that they played the song backwards and it said "do it" or whatever the hell that whole thing was. That was the most, get the gun. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I think ever. But at the same time, that I think once and once these bands, these artists, if they did have to go to court and they did have to, defend themselves, and once they did get cleared of everything, it made them that much stronger. I think a case like that is Judas Priest, absolutely. Obviously with the whole PMRC thing too, with Twisted Sister and all that stuff. Well, I mean, think about that. I think that is probably the most classic one, because think of what that did. I mean, everyone knows about that, but think about what that did, right? They started then putting the stickers, explicit lyrics on the records, and all that did was help the record sell even more.
I know for me, I was a kid at that age.
Yeah.
That was, I knew my parents weren't going to stop me. That was an instant sell for me.
Instant.
If I saw a sticker, I would just grab it on principle.
Exactly.
I was all in. Tipper Gore did me a solid by telling me which one said fuck. I loved that.
Yeah. No, man. And that's the, and like I said, obviously those are just controversies that, happened that just these guys got dragged into. Like I said, it wasn't something they did deliberately. Now, we'll go back to what we're talking about now. Recently, as I mentioned on the onset of this Danko Jones versus Monster Truck. So this one, now you look at, okay, you've got a guy like Danko Jones. Okay, not a lot of people know who he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a fan of his for a while. I haven't been recently because I did see him live a few years ago, and it was awful. I mean, it really was. It was one of the we walked out on the show.
Yeah.
It was one of those I just said, I'm going to the bar. This is so bad. It wasn't that they were, bad with the way they played. It's just the songs they were playing. They were playing a lot of new stuff. It was very poppy. It wasn't my stuff. They weren't playing the old garage rock kind of stuff he used to do. Then, so here it is. Danko Jones comes out, the band Monster Truck, who's a really, really awesome hard rock band from Canada, comes out and does this, song with Kid Rock. Don't Tell Me How to Live, which is a great song in its own right before even Kid Rock covered it. Now, Kid Rock did obviously a modern touch on it, as we don't know. It has a lot of, some political leanings. It's got a lot of just way of life leanings. It's not, it doesn't really be political, but just, just what's going on today in society type of thing. And Danko Jones, being a Canadian, I guess he feels like he's got to, say that he doesn't want to accept it because, he's offended by it as a Canadian or whatever it is. And he doesn't want to line himself now with Monster Truck. And he comes out and puts this whole production, out there. I mean, I think there's partially two things. Sure, he definitely feels that way as one. I think the second part is he's definitely trying to use this to obviously get his name out there. A lot of people don't know who the hell Danko Jones is. Yeah. This is a good way for him to get himself in the news, to promote what he wants to promote, politically or ideologically. And, that turned out, well, I think in the end, that's not going to work out well for him at all. Not at all.
You know what? The country's way too politically divided to this country, and probably the whole world, I'm assuming, is just way too politically divided for that to work anymore. No one liberal people that are liberals are not going to go, well, this guy said it the way I said it, so I'm going to go buy this Danko Jones. I'm going to do that out of solidarity. That's never happened. The term "get woke, go broke" is real for a reason. So, and I don't want to get into the whole politics of it, but when the stance you take is hard left, it always fails. So there's that as the first thing. Second thing, you're attacking. This is literally an ant attacking Godzilla. Kid Rock's as big an artist as there is right now. So coming after somebody for doing something with Kid Rock, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. And ultimately, and this goes across the spectrum of politics. And I'll say it for Kid Rock, who I'm a huge fan of, so I'll put that out there. So it's not like I'm leaning one way or the other. Kid Rock, Ted Nugent, Danko Jones, Rage Against the Machine, pick one. It doesn't matter. If you're spewing politics, you're an asshole in everybody's eyes now.
Yeah.
In everybody's. If you can't it's one thing to do your music and have a song that says your politics. If that's been a tried and true rock and roll tradition, basically since we had rock and roll, was to put your politics in the song and let people make their decision for themselves. But the truth is, most people that listen to music realize that musicians are nothing but fucking pieces of shit scumbags. They're not worthy of following. They're not worthy of adopting their ideology, no matter what it is. I don't care. I don't care what you believe. If you believe in the Second Amendment or you're anti-Second Amendment, the last thing in the world I'm going to do is say, hey, Ted Nugent that wrote Wango Tango, tell me how to think about guns.
Yeah.
No one's going to do that. And in today's age of everybody trying to get their political message in because social media makes them think that they're actually more important than they are, it's a monumental fail. I guarantee you Danko Jones is going to sell less records than more the next time out. And to be honest, the unfortunate thing about it is I think Monster Truck will too. Yeah. And they had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it. I know. But just because they decide to work with an artist that has some strong views politically, and just cover a song, that is a band, obviously, that not a lot of people know about. Yeah. So if some guy like Kid Rock comes and says, hey, guys, I want to cover your song, a song that no one do a video and a song that no one really knows about, well, you're not going to say, no, dude, no thanks. You're going to look at it as an opportunity. I mean, that's what people always did, right? In the music business. When someone wanted to either work with you, guest on your record or do a song with you, you just look at it as like, oh, this is a great way to promote my music, regardless of ideology. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, I guess these days it's one of those people think, well, if you're going to align yourself with specific artists that are very vocal about their ideology politically and so forth, you got to be careful because you're going to have people coming at you left and right. Well, a band like Monster Truck, they got nothing to lose. Yeah. I mean, no one knows them that much anyway outside of Canada. I mean, it's here in the States and, a little overseas, but they're not a household name.
No, not at all. Well, I'll give you the proof for the pudding. In Monster Truck's biggest video on YouTube as of today, what is today, the 4th of December, is Don't Tell Me How to Live. Big shock because people are finding out about it and they're going and listening to it.
The original,
2.9 million views, the original version of it. Their second biggest song is again another version of Don't Tell Me How to Live.
Wow.
With 49,000 views. I'm trying to find one that's not okay. Their third most listened to song is Monster Truck's Sweet Mountain River.
Yes.
2.4 million views. That was released 8 years ago.
Well, that was promoted heavily by Eddie Trunk. He used to promote that song. Yeah.
Sure. So 8 years ago, it's got 2.4 million views, which is impressive. 2.4 million views. Mm-hmm. The version with Monster Truck with Kid Rock, 3.6 million views in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why would this band, this video is going to top probably 15 million views because Kid Rock's album doesn't come out till February.
Okay.
So it's going to get to at least 10. We'll say 10 million. Okay. Monster Truck is going to get exposed to at a minimum, 7 million people that had never heard him before.
Yeah, exactly. Win. Cha-ching for them.
Yeah. Why would they not do that? And nowhere in the video do they adopt Kid Rock's value system.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. They're just performing.
Well, and if anyone knows their music, I said, I am a fan of that band, and I've been for a while. If you know their music, like the song, the lyrics, the original lyrics from the song, Don't Tell Me How to Live. Mm-hmm. It's just that. It's just it has nothing to do with political leanings, because like I said, it came out years ago. I think it even came out before all the political world got destroyed, 2016-ish or 15-ish, around that era. It came out. And it's all about just I'm just a simple man. I like to drink. I like to smoke weed. It's that kind of a feel good, a typical classic, just anti-authority sort of. Hey, I'm my own man. Don't tell me how to live. Just very basic rock and roll.
It's what I mean. Skinner.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Absolutely. It's got the Southern rock tinge to it. Exactly. Yeah. It's a very they're a very simple rock band, hard rock band. There's nothing controversial about them. They've never put out anything controversial. They're not politically aligned in any particular way. They're a bunch of regular guys that just play rock music, and like I said, and going back to like the Danko Jones, if this guy thought it's going to help him, well, you right away you're going to obviously alienate any fan that isn't a hardcore leftist, like you said, because that's all the views he was if he would have just said a quick little thing, it's one thing. He put out like four different tweets or something, and just getting don't even talk to me, don't align myself with you guys. Well, I hate to say it, Danko, who was aligning themselves with you to begin with anyway, dude?
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean? No one knows really you anyway.
Right.
Now you look more of like the whore here who's trying to come out, attach yourself to this thing. You know what I mean? Because you're looking to get attention. You're probably scared that Monster Truck now, because they're another hard rock band from Canada you're going to compete with. They're now going to get so much more notoriety and so much more listens and bigger fan base because of this song with Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Then why don't you just go ahead and see if you could do a song with Rage Against the Machine in? You know what I mean? What can I tell you? But no, because you don't got the songs, and that's the problem. You don't have the songs. Monster Truck had the song that Kid Rock wanted to cover. Yeah. Okay, that's good on them. They wrote a great song. They wrote a really catchy, awesome, hard rock freaking tune. Mm. You're writing these pop songs now, man, trying to be radio guy. So that guy just, I think, shot himself in the foot, big time. Because it's one thing if a band like Monster Truck was a semi-clone of a Ted Nugent Kid Rock, and then they decided to team up with them. Okay, you could create this sort of, once again, this beef, thing that we saw with the rap artists back in the day. Mm-hmm. You could create that if you want. But Monster Truck, no one knows them as a political band. They just saw an opportunity that Kid Rock wanted to cover their song. Yeah. They didn't bring Kid Rock to come on their album to sing a new song that they created. No, this guy wanted to take their song. It's a big difference. Like I said, it's going to definitely backfire on Danko if it hasn't already. He's going to look pretty foolish.
And if just flip the script, if Kid Rock liked the Danko Jones song, you really think he's saying no? My ideology is such that I will not work with you?
I would say, this kind of guy probably, because I think so, because I think, listen, I'll give him credit for believing in what he believes in, and he's okay to listen. I give people credit for sticking to their beliefs if I don't agree with them.
Sure.
So I'll give him credit for that. And I can see him probably saying no. I mean, he does well enough for himself where, he gets by, and he's not a major hit, obviously, but he's been around a long enough time. He's got a good enough following, especially overseas, where I think he doesn't need to do that in terms of at least making a living. I don't think he would turn down a Kid Rock, but same thing. Would he then turn down? Like I said, once again, it goes. I mean, like I said, it'll. I don't want to start a political thing on this, and it's easy just to kind of get into that. But do I think he would have taken a Kid Rock song? No, but he would have definitely went out there and said, "Hey, Kid Rock wanted to do my song," and I told him no, F him. He would have used that, obviously, to somewhat of his advantage, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know dick about Danko Jones. I always heard the name and was like, that sounds terrible. So I never listened to it. So I can't honestly speak on his music, which is probably, low bar for me. Don't like the name of the band, so I don't listen to it. But, I just never did. But I'll tell you this, when I saw this nonsense going on, it sure didn't lead me to listen to it. And I don't know Monster Truck from anybody. First song I ever heard by Monster Truck, this song with Kid Rock. I really have never listened to them. And I like the song. I'll be honest, I don't like the guy's voice. It's not like they're somebody I'm going to go crazy and go listen to either. But I can tell you for a fact, I'm never going to listen to Danko Jones just because, and it's not because I'm a Kid Rock fan. It's because the minute somebody starts preaching at me, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm
just
done.
In general. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm done. Just like I don't really listen to Ted Nugent. I like Ted in the day, but I don't listen to Ted anymore because I'm sick of his bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing his shit.
Every week is something. I know. Same with him. But here's the thing too. So, and that's a good see. So Danko thinks he's going to come out here. He's going to talk, he's going to bring up this whole controversy with Monster Truck. All he's done is now made him that more bigger and popular. That's the other thing too. He thinks he's probably helping himself out with this controversy. No, you're helping Monster Truck out even more because you look like you. And here's the thing too about Danko Jones for people who do know him and do like him, have listened to him. This guy, all he sings about is sexualized stuff. That's all it's all about. I mean, listen, it's people could turn that against him and say, "Hey, dude, you're a filthy freaking sex addict guy." I mean, that's all you talk about is this dirty, sexy kind of stuff. So, I mean, if people go that don't know Danko Jones and now they like him because he attacked Kid Rock and Monster Truck, and they go listen to his stuff, well, listen to his lyrics. It's not like he's singing about puppy dogs and ice cream. This guy, you know what I mean? It's like he's singing about like typical sex, drug, and rock and roll stuff. Same thing. Sure. So anyway, I just think someone like that, it's gonna if it hasn't already, it's gonna definitely backfire him.
Sure.
And that's when there's a good instance where you think a controversy is gonna help you and actually helps the other person and actually is a bad thing for you, which is very interesting. And once again, it's that whole you go woke, you go broke kind of thing, which it is a truth.
I honestly think that in today's age, because of social media, going after something you don't believe in is not a controversy anymore. It's just
run of the mill. It's just run of the mill kind of stuff.
It's what everybody does. It's what it's what the plumber does to his neighbor that's a librarian. They argue with each other on fucking Facebook about the same things. So, Danko Jones being anti Kid Rock or whatever, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's it's like it's the same as the people that are anti-vax not wanting to associate with people that are vaxxed, say, or vice versa, whichever way you lean. If it cuts the pie in half of who you're going to spend time with, and then it cuts it even more with people that just don't want to be preached into. You ultimately lose 60-70% of the people that you could be interacting with. And if that's your trip, then go ahead and try and be controversial. But I just don't think in today's world that, social media wars or whatever, I think that shit is played.
It's played, and I think there's also a difference too when you do have a controversy, when you're, say, a Sebastian Bach or a Ted Nugent, guys who have actually done stuff in their career, have had hits, compared to a Danko Jones where no one knows you. You might think that that's going to get you on the map. Not necessarily. It might get you even stomped on even more. Yeah, I mean, Sebastian Bach can do it because he's got the hits to back him up that people are always going to listen to. He could come out and go off on Chris Jericho, and he could do those things because he's got his hardcore following. People like myself who really can't stand the guy, I'm not going to listen to him anyway. I mean, I like old Skid Row. I do. I love that stuff. I've just never been a fan of his solo stuff, but it's not going to affect a guy like me. It might help his already strong fan base. It might, I don't think it's going to bring anybody to his side, but it might just keep him in the news enough where he's still relevant because he's already got a name. Danko Jones doesn't have that name. He's not a Sebastian Bach. The guy has not had one hit. He's a very underground guy. He's, plays the small, the decent sized clubs and venues. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. He does fine for himself, but this is going to hurt him more of anything. Because guys like myself who don't like to be preached to, who don't like to, whatever side it is, like you said, whether it's Aaron Lewis, Ted Nugent, or someone like him, I don't like either one of it. So someone like me is going to go, I'm done with that guy.
I'm the
So,
same way. I'm
yeah.
same exact way, dude. The minute you start, and I don't care who it is anymore, it's funny. I'll point to one that's not as deliberately preachy, but he's still more preachy than I will even tolerate anymore. Somebody I was a monstrous fan of, still am of his old stuff, but won't listen to anything new. Bruce Springsteen.
Mm-hmm.
I was a giant fan all the way up through the Rising. So for a long time, long past when most people gave up, I stayed on the Springsteen train for a long, 2002 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But man, once he started being preachy guy, goodbye. Mm-hmm. Haven't listened to any of the Magic or Wild Horses not for you or any of these records that he's put out the last 20 years. Reason? Because I don't want to be preached to.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go to a show and fucking have to hear about how the country was ruined because I didn't support his girl Hillary or whatever. Fuck you. Fuck your politics. Let's just fucking let me enjoy Born to Run and Badlands, please. Yeah. If you're going to let me do that, then I'll enjoy your music. If you're going to start thinking again, going back to what I said before, who are these guys to be preaching to any of us?
Absolutely.
Making money doesn't make you smart.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Writing a hit song doesn't make you smart. It just doesn't. It just means that you wrote something that entertained us loosely.
That's the word that's missing now is the entertainment part of it. It's not becoming when the Bruce Springsteens do what they do, or Eddie Vedder, or whoever it is that's up there, Roger Waters, these guys who are like, iconic musicians. Yeah. Their whole thing, I say this a lot, but I hate when people in these celebrities and musicians or whatever are always like, well, I'm going to use my platform. Once again, take the approach to Alice Cooper approach. Look, like he always says, I don't know why musicians get involved with politics, because you can't relate to the average man and woman because your life is completely different. You sleep all day, get up at night, and that's when your job is. You entertain people. You have something that's so different and in a way special. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's why people want to go see you, because it is different. You're not a regular 9-to-5 person, and you have the show and you entertain, and people just like that. They want that feel to it's an escape. I don't understand why these guys don't get it. People go to see music and these shows as an escape. Like I said, unless it's like a Rage Against the Machine band where you've been political from day one, that's okay. That's different to me because you know what you're getting, and you've always been about that. So
hold on. I just want to stop you right there.
Yeah.
It's not different though. If they do it in their music, fine.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Though, in the music,
then you're choosing to either engage in their music or not as a fan. But I love Rage Against the Machine's music, and I don't think I like them. And I couldn't be further ideologically than I am from them. But I'll tell you what, anything at all that says Tom Morello's going to be a part of it, I will not watch.
I agree.
I will not watch it at all because as a person, I think he's a bag of shit.
I do too.
And musically, I will listen to Renegades or the debut or, Empire of the Sun, I think was the second one. I'll listen to that stuff all day long. I love that stuff.
Yeah, his first record's good.
But dude, isn't it ironic that we only hate one guy in that band? The one that still runs his fucking mouth.
His mouth. Well, that's the thing too. It does suck because it's not like everybody in the band. I mean, I think the whole band has an ideology because most of them. The only one you haven't heard, obviously, is the singer Zach, but the other guys have come out and said little things here and there. So I know they're all ideologically aligned. But my whole thing with that is like, yes, of course, I won't go see them because of that. Like I said, if they just leave it in the music, I would respect that and still. Because I do, I'm agree with you. I do like their records, their first couple, 2 or 3 records. I do. I think they're really good. And I think sometimes, they almost use it. Like, I think, let's be honest. I don't know if you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but with that band, were they very vocal outside of their music and lyrics in the press about what they believed in? I don't remember hearing too many things in the press where they were, doing interviews, and I mean, I'm sure they were, but
I just think it was a different time. I mean,
that's true too. You're right.
I mean, let's face it. In the press back then might have meant that you saw 3 interviews over the course of an album run. You'd see it in whatever Rip or Rolling Stone or whatever. And if you didn't read those magazines, you just didn't see any press from them. Where now, dude, you go on YouTube and look up any band that you like and you'll get 43 interviews by them. True. I mean, there's an abundance of places for them to keep spewing their bullshit. And, I want to go back to the bands that you listed that are all idiots with their ideologies. I like every one of their music. I like Stained. I love Pink Floyd. I love the old Springsteen stuff. Love all that stuff. Will not give up that stuff, that they did in the past. Won't listen to any of those bands now. Aaron Lewis, I ain't listening to it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be preached to. And I'll never watch an interview with Aaron Lewis. I just won't do it. I won't watch an interview with Ted Nugent. I won't watch an interview with Tom Morello, Roger Waters. I won't do it for that exact reason. I don't want to get preached to. I just want to, I just want to get comfortably numb, Roger. That's it.
I know exactly. Yeah. No, you're right. Well, I mean, and I think too about these bands is they like I'll just use Rage again for a quick second. Sure. You think about when they came out. Okay, the fans that were into them. Okay, myself and you, we were younger.
Sure.
We weren't really. It was more about rebellion. It didn't have nothing to do with politics. No. It was a generic rebellion against authority in general. And in fact, it was just anti-politics and anti-authority altogether. It didn't have a left or right side to me. Now, I know that they were aligned that way, but as a youngster, I didn't care or even know about that. Now, as we get older, okay, now they can, if they think that they're going to be that relevant now, where they're going to get all these new fans. These younger kids. No, these younger kids aren't going to go buy your records and go to your shows. They're not going to do it. They might listen to your songs. They might stream your songs. That's about all you're going to get from them. But you're going to lose now because we all grew up and we change our ideology over time. Obviously, the more you're alive, the more experiences you have, the more wisdom you wind up having, and you make different. Now you have a different outlook on things. And so by continuing to talk and sing about the same thing you did 30 years ago. I mean, that just shows me you haven't grown as a person. Yeah. Are you still the same angry, rebellious guy when you're in your 50s, almost 60, and as you were when you were in your 20s? That's almost to me kind of. It's like I look at a guy like Al Jorgensen. That guy. I mean, another guy. Just shut your mouth, dude. Another guy who's ruined it. I'm a huge fan of the old Ministry stuff. Love him. I will not go see that guy. He's singing songs about Antifa and stuff. I mean, pro Antifa. Dude, I don't want to hear anything pro anything. I don't want to hear any pro Trump songs or pro Antifa. I just want to be entertained, hear music, get a message you can get across without it being so politically aligned. You can obviously angle your way you write lyrics in a certain direction without having to be so specific. With the words you're using and with the terminology you're using. And I just think,
I don't even mind if he's deadly specific with, like, the Antifa song is a good example. Mm-hmm. If it stopped there on the record,
fine.
Thing,
but it's not.
That's fine. But it's not. But if I have to go to a show and I have to get a speech at why I'm an asshole because I don't support Antifa, well, fuck you. I'm not going to the show.
Exactly.
And I want to circle back to your Rage thing because I think the proof is really in the pudding. With Rage, they tried to sort of reform as Prophets of Rage, and that went nowhere. Because no one wants to hear it anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody still wants to hear Killing in the Name of because they like the tune, not because they're feeling the message.
Exactly.
Prophets of Rage tried to come out and piggyback off of the Rage success and the Audio Slave success and rekindle a flame that was put out purposefully, back in the day.
Yeah.
It ran its course.
So that's you can't go back. You're right. That's a great point. You cannot go back and rekindle a flame. And that's a great point. What was done is done. That was that back then. And if you want to join the fray now, you want to get involved into the political fray, good luck, because it's not gonna work out well for you. I mean, even Rage, Like I said, they were doing it right before the pandemic hit. I know they were doing the arena tour,
Hmm.
and I don't think that was selling very well either. Charging, here's a band. I mean, like I said, we can get into them, whatever. But the things they sung about, or they look so hypocritical now.
Yeah.
And people like us, old fans like us, could see that. And that's not going to drive anyone to you. If you think you don't care about that, and you're like, well, we don't care about those fans. We're looking to get the younger fans. No one's going to spend. You think these younger kids are going to spend $150, $200 on a ticket on top of buying whatever it is they're going to buy at the show? Spend about $300 on a show to see Rage Against the Machine, a band that has not been relevant in over 20, 25 years? Get out of here.
Well, and the irony of it is Rage Against the Machine charging $150, $200 a ticket while they rage against the machine.
Capitalism, yeah.
They'll rage against Kid Rock, who did a tour where he made every ticket $20.
Exactly. Yep.
And
bingo.
And played 18,000 seat arenas, took a loss, or not a loss, but took far less money he could have been selling for $100 a ticket.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And he's selling everything for $20 a ticket with $4 beers.
Mm-hmm.
And he mandated that. So who's really raging against the machine? Stop it. Controversy, and I'm going to swing it back to the topic. Controversy in the old days with current events worked. It doesn't work anymore. Social media has neutralized it.
Yeah.
It's not shocking anymore.
Yep.
You're not Joan Baez, who's risking your life by singing. You're not Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young, who could legitimately get arrested for singing "For Dead in Ohio" and starting a riot or something. You're not Bob Dylan. Yep. You're just corporate whores. You've taken corporate whore money for your entire career. Everybody knows it. And social media has limited the playing field for that now. It's just not controversial anymore. It's just lame because everybody does it. Every plumber, every waitress, everybody does it. So you're not shocking anyone.
Well, that's the thing. The shock value of it's gone. You're absolutely correct on that point. Absolutely. Well, yeah. And like you said, creating controversy, I think, and I'm going to piggyback off what you said. It doesn't have the effect that it once did. It does have a negative effect that it might have, that it did in the past, or more so. Yeah. It's not going to help you.
There's very limited times that it can help.
Yeah.
I honestly think for a minute, and the one that we brought up at the very beginning of this, I'm very curious to see how it plays out, which is the Brass Against girl.
Sure.
Because I had never heard of that band.
Well, they're a cover band. Band.
I'd never heard of them. I've heard of them now.
Now everyone knows about them, though.
Yep, I've heard of them now. And I'll be honest, I do want to see what they do next because that was pretty out there.
Well, like I said, they're just a cover band. She is doing it now. It's just a solo thing. Yes, I have seen her now on tour. And it was probably it's probably what she did, knowing she's trying to get her name. I mean, like I said, hey, it worked, man. And that's the thing. If you want controversy to work for you, you've got to do something along those lines. The political thing, like you said, it's not shocking anymore. Peeing on some fan's face, that's pretty shocking. That's going to get people's. I mean, that was all over the newspapers, for God's sakes. Like it wasn't just on music sites. That was on regular, newspapers in big cities. That was on those newspapers.
Now, if she was smart, she'd go get an endorsement from like Kohler or American Standard or something.
I know, right?
and somehow work that. Somehow work that angle, but
you know what it is? I think it's still a little bit too new. Give it a couple of months. Let her go on tour. And you'll see probably something. I don't think it'll actually, like I said, it depends how good her music is.
Yeah.
If the fans like her music. But if she becomes like a shock artist like that, well, then sure. Or if she just wanted to use the one, instance, the one controversial event to just get her name out into the sphere there, into the public sphere. Listen, it's already worked because everyone knows now who Brass Against is. Everyone knows about the P story. Yeah. And once again, and I think, like I said, it's totally fake. There's no doubt in my mind it is, but it worked. They got people talking. They got people to go, well, who is this? Let me go listen to that.
Well, it's the only performance anybody talked about from that festival, which was a big festival.
I know.
It was that Rockville. It was at Rockville, right?
Rockville, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was a big festival with a lot of huge artists. And the only thing anybody talks about is that set that probably went off at noon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, shock definitely does still work. Politics doesn't. That's my final, I think, comment here on the controversy.
Yeah. I think shock can work. I think it really depends. I think it's going to go
It's got to be
artist.
something new. It can't be rehashed shock,
Yeah, it's going to be artist to artist. I mean, if you're trying too hard, it's always going to fail. If you're trying not enough, that's going to fail too. It's just got to be, it's really got to be magic in the bottle type of a deal. And politics, anything that is politics or race baiting or any of that stuff, that's never going to work now. That day's done. Dude, I'm going to throw this out real quick and then we'll end here, I think. Mm-hmm. Do you hate the band Poison, their music? Well, let me go a different way. Don't even answer. What is your least favorite hair band?
Of the bigger bands?
Of the bigger bands that people would know.
Oh man. I mean, I would say Poison's probably up there, but I liked a little bit of early Poison. I won't lie. Probably either them or like a more I mean, who's more popular than Poison? I'm trying to think.
Motley Crue, really.
Well, yeah, but I like Motley Crue. So yeah, you're right. Poison's probably one of the ones I don't like as much. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. What would you rather see? Rage Against the Machine, knowing that you're going to get an earful of bullshit, but you love the music, or a Poison show where you're just going to get nothing but a good time and shit blowing up and stuff like that?
I'd say a good 5 to 7 years ago, Rage Against the Machine, no doubt. Now, no doubt, Poison. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that should tell these artists something. I mean, most of us don't care what you think. Let's just be honest. You literally are us, everybody, anybody that's in the entertainment world. You are the monkey that the organ grinder sends out to collect the quarters.
Yeah.
That's what you are. So do your little dance, play your little song, and cash your checks. Everything else, no one cares about anymore. So wake the fuck up.
And on that, I think we'll end this segment. Perfect ending. Awesome. Yeah. All right, man. Well, it was great talking about that. And anything else you want to put out there before we wrap this up?
Yes, I'm on Cameo.
That's right.
Let me whore myself out.
Now, let me ask you a quick question. If someone wanted you to do a cameo and wanted you to do a political message, would you do it?
Absolutely. If you're going to pay me, I will talk about how much Hillary Clinton is my hero. And I wish I could have married Chelsea instead of my ex.
There you go.
Don't care.
In the end, the almighty dollar always wins as always, right?
Yeah, because Cameo is a fake world.
Mm-mm.
It's all fake to me.
Even social media, it's all fake. The whole thing is way fake too.
It's all bogus. So if you want a bogus message from me, absolutely. Cameo.com/Chris Aiken. There
it is. Go to have Chris Aiken send all your hardcore leftist political views
to
your friends. And that's the greatest gift you'll give them for Christmas, won't it?
It will be funny to collect those and play those back on the CMS, won't it?
That would be funny. Awesome. All right, man. Let's wrap this up. All right, everybody. We'll see you next episode.
Later.